Okay, so this webinar is being recorded. And like I said, you will get a version of this webinar sent over to you once we conclude. And as I mentioned, I'm turning off the chat now, but Q&A feature is still working. So yeah, let's get going. I'm gonna go ahead and just share my presentation here. Let's see. I don't know if I got it right. Okay, I believe I'm now sharing my presentation. And if you guys ever end up having some trouble hearing me, you could just drop it in the Q&A and I should be able to see if we're having any connection issues. Now, first, just to introduce myself, my name is Marissa Medley. I work on the admissions team here at Flatiron School. I mostly work with our data science students, but I have done and do admissions for all of our courses, so I should be able to answer most questions. A little bit about myself. I am based out of New York. I'm here in the Bronx. I am an avid reader, puzzle master. I just figured out a Rubik's Cube, which I'm very proud of. And I am a cat mom. I have a cat named Avalanche. Although I am pregnant with my first little one, so I'll have to update that to human mom towards the fall. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Now, in this info session, we're going to cover some facts just about Flatiron School in general. Also, we're going to overview the 4 different programs we offer. We'll go through the admissions process as well as some career services and job report facts. And then again, we'll leave some time for questions towards the end. So like I said, as they come, you could drop them in that Q&A. And if we answer that over the course of the presentation, that's just fine. So we will start with Flatiron School's mission statement. Our mission statement is to enable the pursuit of a better life through education. Really, the goal of Flatiron School is to set you up for a successful future in your new career path. We focus quite a bit on career changers in our course. We consider this to be a career-changing program, and we want to make your transition into the tech industry a smooth one, as smooth as possible. So we'll dive into what that looks like throughout this presentation. A little bit of Flatiron School history. Now, we were founded in 2012 out of New York by Adam and Avi. We had Adam, who was an investor. He was really passionate about education, and Avi used to literally self-teach people in coffee shops how to code. And they started doing that to students, and fast forward 10 years later, we've had Flatiron School for the past 10 years. And that's like almost 10 years on the dot. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this month. So you'll probably see a lot of anniversary things on our website, which we're really proud of. And over the course of that 10 years, we've expanded just from offering software engineering to 3 more courses as well. So we also offer data science, cybersecurity engineering, and product design. And we have virtual classes, as well as classes at some in-person locations, which we'll get into in just a little bit. And then lastly, we have a really proven job search framework that we've established, and we have helped thousands of students land jobs in the tech field. So yes, that's a little bit about our history. Now, where are those people employed? Over the years, we've created a really vast employer partnership network. So these are some of the big companies that we've had placements at. Spotify, Microsoft, Infosys is a big partner of ours, Facebook, Google. We have to update the slide because we had a couple of NASA placements, which we're really excited about this year. And even some, like, these are obviously like big name placements we've had, but we've also had like really great smaller placements. Like we had a partnership with like Girls Who Code. One of my students just told me he got a job doing heat mapping, and they're figuring out where to put compost bins throughout the city. So really, you can kind of put your job search in any direction that you'd like. And we'll talk about this towards the end. But it is quite impressive that we're taking students that don't have much technical experience, and they're able to land jobs at some of these bigger companies. it also shows just how much these companies rely on technology. You know, any company that has a really strong website has a software engineering team. Any company that's not, you know, that's now collecting data can use a data science team to have really data-driven insights. So many different ways that you can kind of leverage a tech career and land a job at a great company. So before we go into our specific courses, we'll talk a bit more general about the different PACE options that we offer. So we're going to go over again those 4 disciplines in the next slide, but all of those 4 disciplines can fall into 2 different PACE options, and that's a full-time learning schedule or a part-time learning schedule. So if you do our full-time program, this is kind of the traditional boot camp style program. And this is offered for all of our courses, as I mentioned. So if you did full-time learning, it would be 15 weeks and it would be full-time. That's 9+ hours a day, which can vary depending on what time zone you're in, the hours. And this option is good for students that have cleared their schedule. They want day-to-day accountability, like dedicated classroom time, dedicated group work, and are okay with an accelerating learning model. We offer this structure both virtually, so you can typically take it from most states, all online, or you can actually take it from a couple campus locations. Right now, we're doing kind of like a phased reopen approach. So our New York City campus and our Denver campus are open. So you could always, if you're in those areas, you could inquire about taking in-person classes. But the virtual model has been really successful for us in the past 2 years. It's just as immersive. There's just as much daily class time. There's just as much accountability. So again, this would be your fast-paced model. And then we also offer a more flexible model in our part-time option for those that maybe you want to set your own schedule, or you're working, or you have other projects and obligations going on. So typically, if you do our flex model or our part-time model, it's the same exact curriculum. Students typically are graduating within 40 weeks, which is about 10 months. And that would be if you're giving about a 20 to 25 hour a week commitment. It's almost like taking on a part-time job. But the great thing about it, it's completely flexible. Say things are really slow at work and you can dedicate more time to the program, you can actually graduate earlier than 40 weeks. Or say like you get really slammed at work and have to slow down, you can graduate later than 40 weeks. You just have to graduate before 60 weeks elapse. Now in this option, as opposed to having to go to class each day, when you're working on your own, there's recorded material that can support you. And then all of the instructor-led sessions are optional, but available to you. So like you could go to as many as your schedule allows. They're all over Zoom. You'll do regular check-ins with an assigned teacher, and we typically have technical coach support that can help you ad hoc should you get stuck. And then we also offer this primarily, this is delivered online, but if you are near a campus location, you could typically visit campus if you want a quiet place to study, if you want to work with other students. Like sometimes it is nice to have a bit of structure to your day and you want to go to a dedicated place for learning. So if you're near the New York City or the Denver campus, you can actually visit campus as a part-time student as well. So that's a little bit about the different modalities. And if there's any questions on that, throw them in the Q&A and we can review them in depth post presentation. Now we're going to dive into a program overview of our courses. So one of our most popular courses is our software engineering program. It's the first course that we offered here at Flatiron School, and it's really focused on the design, development, maintenance, testing, and evaluation of websites and computer software. In short, you are learning how to code. So we designed the software engineering course to give you all the necessary steps to both back-end and front-end programming. So we do teach a full stack curriculum. And typical job titles we see from students that graduate our software engineering program are software engineers, associate engineers, software developers. Now, this is what we teach in our course. Again, our front-end language is JavaScript, and our back-end language is Ruby. And then you'll learn the web frameworks that support those languages. It'll all culminate in a large capstone project. The nice thing about the courses is you will graduate with a portfolio of work. So every phase we have has a dedicated project. For software engineering, you will graduate with a 5-project portfolio, with your final project being a really great capstone project that's either about something that you're interested in or maybe a field you see yourself going in post-graduation. So here's an example of a software engineering capstone project. So this was built by one of our virtual students in Texas, and she built an app called Money Moon, which is a personal finance app for two. And Money Moon gives couples an overview of their joint financial health, their spending habits and trends without having to combine bank accounts. So the back end of this was built with Ruby on Rails. The front end was built with JavaScript using React and Redux, which made a really beautiful kind of light interface here. And then they used an API to authenticate their credentials with the different banking tools. So, I mean, how impressive is this that this is the product of a student who did this without having much coding background to begin with. They built a fully functional app post-graduation, which, I mean, I just think is quite impressive. Now, next course we'll overview is our data science program. Data science is the course that I primarily do admissions for. So with the data science program, you're really using scientific methods and processes to extract knowledge from data. So basically, a lot of it is just communicating, analyzing data so that you can communicate findings with stakeholders and kind of inform business decisions. So students that graduate from our data science program become data scientists, junior data scientists, data analysts, data engineers, consultants, all kinds of things. Data science actually has a lot of different job titles. So many unique job titles that kind of go with the data science course. So in the program, we take you through a full data science process. So you will learn how to source data. You'll learn how to clean it, how to organize it. You're mostly going to be using Python and SQL for that. And for your data cleaning and manipulation, you're going to use NumPy and Pandas. And then your focus is really on drawing implications from your data. So there's a full statistics phase. There's a machine learning phase. So you're going to be doing like predictive analytics, AI. You'll learn how to build models with algorithms, more advanced topics towards the end. There's some natural language processing and deep learning. So you'll even do some like recommendation system work. And then obviously you'll learn how to present your findings with some data visualization tools. So if you're a really curious person, if you like doing math, because there's a bit of like statistics and a little bit of calculus you'll do in this course. If you've already worked with data and doing data analytics, this could be a really great course for you. Now, what I love about a data science process is you can actually use it to uncover things about some interesting topics. Like it's not all graphs and just pie charts. Like you can do some really cool work with it. So here's a portfolio project example from a data science student. So this student used the parameters of a Bechdel test to examine how women are represented in film. So Bechdel test kind of gives you a pass-fail about women representation. And they use those parameters to actually build like a user end tool where it can pull public movie data to tell you if it has a passing Bechdel test score. So like if there was a positive number of women directors, writers, producers, women that talk to each other, those are all positive attributes and would lend itself to a passing score or not. I thought this was really interesting because it used public movie data, stuff we all have access to, but it analyzed it in a way that was pretty interesting. And this was a subject matter that was actually like just very interesting to them that they got to explore a bit more on in their portfolio project. With the data science course, you also would graduate with a 5-project portfolio. So every phase has a dedicated project, with this one being your last big project. Next, we'll move on to our cybersecurity program. So in this program, over 600 hours worth of curriculum, learning some advanced cybersecurity tools. You could almost think of our cybersecurity program almost like a survey course. Like you're actually introduced to a lot of different cybersecurity topics, 9 in total. There are some that you'll go a bit deeper into, like network administration, system administration. You learn some Python skills in this program. You'll do some penetration testing. So there's lots of also some like ethical hacking that you'll do. But cybersecurity in general is the protection of computer systems from theft or of damage to their hardware, software, or electronic data. So you're really protecting company or client information from being breached. So students that graduate our program are landing jobs as like security engineers, SOC analysts, security consultants, cybersecurity analysts, things like that. So again, this goes over a lot of the different tools that you would learn in our cybersecurity program. This deck will be sent to you, so you could always read through them a bit more in depth. But again, some of the big ones are network administration and system administration. There's also some non-technical things taught in our cybersecurity program, like GRC rules, just understanding if your company is protecting private information in a way that's compliant with state regulations, things like that. And another thing that makes our cybersecurity program a bit unique is, again, a capstone project where you are going to take a problem all the way from a breach to a write-up and have that as like information that you could actually display when you're job seeking. So yeah. Now, again, this is kind of like an example of a portfolio example. So your capstone project will simulate a real world breach scenario where you present your solution to a panel. And then again, you'll utilize those deliverables for a job search. So it's not just getting a certification, it's really having some real world knowledge you could just display to prospective employers. Now, our last program is our product design program. So a breakdown of the product design curriculum, the course is structured in phases. Phase 0, or I guess I should talk about what product design is. Product design is the process of identifying a market opportunity, clearly defining the problem, and developing proper solutions for the problem, validating those with real users. So basically you're doing UX UI design, user experience, or user interface design. So students that are graduating the program are getting roles as like product designers, UX designers, UX researchers, and interaction design. Again, if we're going to look at the curriculum, it's broken down into different phases. Phase 0 is pre-work. And then phase 1 and 2 teach the fundamentals of UX and UI design processes. Phase 3 and 4 give you real world experience through some projects that you'll complete using some tools like Figma, Photoshop, InVision. And then phase 5, you'll pull your body of work together in a portfolio so that you could get prepared for the job search. So this might be a good course if you enjoy trying to understand user psychology. Why does a red layout perform better than a green layout? Why should we put our button here? How large should the apply now button be? So you're doing things like different mock-ups with testing, and you're actually doing user research. So it's a lot of like almost psychological work of trying to understand users. This is a good program to go to maybe if you really want to get into tech, but you're just not interested in coding, like coding's not your thing, but you still want to learn some useful technical skills and other technical tools. Product design could be a good program to go into in that regard. Now, in terms of the portfolio projects, here's an example of what you'd be working on in our product design course. So students use existing companies and learn how to make a mock change to their existing design. So in this project example, the student used Heirloom, which is a company that installs hydroponic technologies for indoor and outdoor use. and it automated many of the like tedious tasks involved with growing your own food. So the student designs the screens for controlling and setting up the sensors. They basically like streamlined the design of this whole web page, and then proposed one that really would speak to the types of users that this company would be attracting. Now we'll talk a bit about the types of people that you'll interact with should you go through the Flatiron School admissions process and ultimately the course. You'll talk to people like me, admissions representatives. And then when you're in the program, you're going to deal with lead instructors, technical coaches, as well as career coaches that help you land a job in the field. So admissions reps will guide you through the entire admissions process. They will answer all the questions you have, big and small, and kind of ensure that the program's the right next step for you in your life personally. Your lead instructor will support you throughout the whole entire program through different phases. Our lead instructors have the most experience of all of our instructors out in Flatiron School. And then technical coaches are there for like ad hoc support. They're doing things like office hours. They're answering questions on Slack. They can sometimes just relate to you a bit better than a lead instructor. Many of our technical coaches are alumni. So they can kind of just be like, I remember this phase, this is how I got through it. And then again, your career coach will guide you through the whole career services process and landing a job post-graduation. Next, we're going to go through the entire admissions process. This is just a quick snapshot. So we're going to kind of dig into all the different steps that you would go through in terms of the admissions process. But you can feel free to, even if you want to like screenshot this slide if you want to, because this is how your process would kind of look throughout the whole admissions process. So step one is to submit an application. This is really your chance to introduce yourself to us. I always feel like a lot of times people want to write, I don't have any technical background. And sometimes that's not true. Sometimes you coded a bit when you were on MySpace back in the day. Sometimes you're doing data analytic work at work and you don't realize it. Again, you don't have to beef up your skills here, but it's our chance to really understand why you're thinking Flatiron School might be the right next step, why you're looking to make a career change, and kind of like where you are in your process. So it's really our chance to kind of just introduce yourself. I wouldn't get hung up again on the technical piece. Like maybe you've been self-teaching for a few years, maybe like you're brand new, but you love puzzles and problem solving. Like that is what we want to hear about. Now, you're gonna always wonder when is the right time to apply. Number one, you don't need to know how to code, hack, or work with data or design before applying. But I do think you should know that you're ready for a career change, and you should know approximately how much time you have each week to dedicate to the program. I will say, like, after years of working with career changers, it's an anxious process to think about jumping into a course like this. So really, like, we're here to help, but it's really important to think realistically about time commitments you're signing up for. A 60-hour-a-week commitment might sound doable when you're looking at your calendar, but how could you really swing that if you're working? How could you really swing that if you know for like an hour and a half you're doing school pickups for kids, right? And similarly, even with our flexible model, although it is flexible, you got to think about, are you ready to get school time into your regular schedule? So I think that that's an important step you should take, like, even before applying, or that you could talk about with admissions if you kind of want to talk through what piece is the right next step. I did college full-time and I worked full-time. A boot camp is not like that. If you decide to do the full-time option, you cannot work when you're taking the program. And sometimes it could be hard to wrap your head around it because you want to finish fast, but Flex is absolutely designed for that. So kind of think through your PACE option. And then you don't even need to know how exactly you'll pay for the course, because these are all things we'll review during your initial interview. And sometimes it's nice to actually talk through our options with a live person. So these are all things that we can review when you apply. The next step of the process is to complete an admissions interview. So when you submit your application, me or someone on the team will reach out to you to get you scheduled for an admissions interview. Our admissions interview are 20-minute Zoom calls, or if you feel more comfortable, it can be a phone call. And this is the time where you can learn a bit more about the program, and we'll learn a bit more about you. You'll learn a bit more about Flatiron School. It's literally a great time to answer any questions that you might have about the program. So again, we're here to meet you where you are. If you're doing it during the workday, we can definitely just do it as a phone call. Just let us know what's more comfortable. I do enjoy the Zoom calls because it is a really great chance to get to know you, but whatever you prefer. Now, typically, after you successfully complete your admissions interview, you'll be asked to complete our admissions assessment. So this assessment is actually open to you like right when you apply. You can even sometimes knock it out before your initial interview should you'd like, or you could wait until after your admissions interview, whatever you prefer. And basically this admissions assessment is a 15-minute general aptitude assessment. It's not based on software engineering skills or data science skills. It's much more general. I actually think we might have a few examples of what the questions would look like. So again, these aren't based on like any kind of coding skills or data skills. Like here's a sample verbal question, a sample math question, and then some spatial reasoning questions. These are not real questions on there, so I don't need to screenshot, but if you just want an example. So if you'd like to prep before taking the assessment, we actually have a blog that says kind of like how to succeed in your assessment that you'll get sent through, which kind of just tells you helpful ways to approach the assessment. And then after you complete your assessment, we'll get your scores and we'll be able to kind of move you forward to an admissions decision. And maybe another thing to note, I guess on this last slide is I always like to point out, we can't reduce a student to a score. And sometimes like these types of assessments, they aren't like your favorite thing. It's kind of weird to walk into them without context. This is not the only thing that we consider when making an admissions decision. We also consider things like your application, how your interview went, your background. So people always get nervous around the assessment, but again, it's just one component. It tells us a little bit about how you use new information. So don't get too worried about the assessment, I guess I would say. Now, again, once you complete your assessment, we can usually make an admissions decision based on the criteria I just mentioned. Admissions decisions typically take about 1 to 3 days. We do typically like to meet as a team to talk about all the students we admit. So we usually, again, we'll try to do that and add you to a batch of students we're reviewing. But again, like we are all admissions representatives, we can also make some decisions autonomously. So you might, if we're coming up on a deadline, you might actually hear back from us the next day or by end of day if we're trying to squeeze you in. So yeah, we'll make an admissions decision and then we'll walk you through the next steps in the admissions process. So a big step in your overall enrollment is completing pre-work. So pre-work is, there's pre-work for every single one of our courses. For data science and cyber, it's about 40 hours. For product design, it is about 30 hours. And for software engineering, it's about 60 hours of work. Now, the pre-work is a really great way to technically prepare you for class. We would not want to put you in a rigorous program without you having some of those fundamentals under your belt. And a lot of students might say like, hey, I thought that there'd be a technical interview. We actually changed our process in the last year that instead of a technical interview, we established pre-work because we wanted students to get intro to this material in a bit more of a supported setting. So while you're working through your pre-work, you have access to technical coaches, Slack support, so you get peer-to-peer support. Like in this example, a student was working through the data science pre-work. They were having some trouble with their code running and 5 different students jumped in and helped them complete the pre-work and kind of figure out their bug, which is a nice way to kind of collaborate with your class. And then there's also like even some teacher resources that are dedicated for pre-work support. So it's basically a way to get some fundamentals down before you start. Again, that's in a bit more of a supported setting. Pre-work is required for all of our programs. So you also want to think about this in terms of your timeline for a course. For example, we have a June 27th start date where you probably wouldn't get pre-work done in time for that start date, right? Especially if it's software engineering and it's over 60 hours. So we would put you typically to the next cohort to give you more time to complete pre-work. And I will say we do quite a few surveys of students that just completed the first phase of the course. And we always say, like, what's your advice for students coming in? And it's like, take your time to pre-work and have some time to really like learn those things in pre-work, because it is a very, very good foundation for the program. So that's still pre-work. When you're admitted to the program, there are a few, you'll want to also think about how you're going to pay your tuition. It's actually something you would probably want to think about before even applying, or you might want to schedule a call to talk about your options, but we're going to review them here. So the full cost of our tuition for all of our programs and PACES is $16,900 USD. When you're admitted, you typically pay a deposit of $500, and then you pay the remainder of your tuition in a few different ways. You can pay your tuition upfront, which basically means that you pay your tuition before you would start in class. You can pay via a monthly installment plan. This basically splits your tuition equally over 1 year with 0 interest. You can take out a loan with either your own bank or our providers. I will say our providers typically have some more flexible options than a bank. Our providers are listed on our website. We work with Ascent and Climb, but your admissions advisor can also send you through the links to check them out. And like I said, there's quite a few competitive financing options. Like, we do offer deferred loans for those that qualify. There are some interest only options where you only pay interest only, and then when you graduate, it goes to your regular monthly loan payment. So depending on what you qualify for, you could find something that's pretty that would work for you, and that's a bit more competitive monthly than maybe the installment plan. And then we also offer quite a few different scholarships throughout the year. Offhand, I know that we're running our Access Scholarship that's really prioritized towards underrepresented groups in tech, or those that pose a financial need. And then I also know Women Take Tech is running right now. So if you identify as a woman, you could possibly go for that as well. We do typically like update our different scholarship opportunities. So always kind of like check out the website to see what's running now. But those are 2 that I know offhand that are running. But you could always ask your admissions advisor as well. Now, what I think is the most important part of the entire process is landing a job once you graduate the program. That's usually why you're taking the course, is because you want to land a job. And one of our biggest priorities is helping students do this once they graduate. And I actually feel like when students ask me what's the big difference between you and some other schools, I almost always say career services, because it's just like such a robust part of our whole process. So actually, we've updated a little bit of career services even from this slide. You actually will start working with career services now once you're in the program. There's different workshops you'll go to when you're in the course that kind of can help kind of tee up your job search once you graduate. So you'll actually already have completed 5 different career services workshops by the time you graduate the program. And then once you graduate is when you will get placed with your one-on-one coach. This is someone who will become such an important personal contact of yours, and they will help you, again, through what I think is the hardest part. People think the course is the hard part. The job search is the hard part, because that's where all of your kind of anxiety will begin to culminate. So we do a lot of basics to start. We'll help you read your resume, your LinkedIn. We'll teach you how to start talking about your portfolio. you will do mock tech interviews and mock HR interviews to see what you're strong at and what you want to keep working on. You'll do a lot of work just to narrow down your job search. And then you will come up with a strategy with your coach that you're going to deploy over a number of weeks. Typically, you'll work with career coaches for about 180 days, which is about 6 months. But more than 50% of students get placed within the first 2 months post graduating the course. And they're doing much more than a typical job search. For example, this is for the software engineering program. We just got out of a career services meeting, and they talked about this student who found this job that she was eyeing even before she took the program. She really wanted to work for this company, but they used a web framework that we don't teach at Flatiron School. So she took a week to after conferring with her coach, she took a week to self-teach herself the web framework. She wrote a blog post about how she self-taught the web framework and kind of a small tool she used. And then she did a targeted LinkedIn approach to the entire product team saying, hey, I know you have an entry-level position open. Many entry-level people don't know this web framework. You can actually share my blog with them. And like they immediately invited her to interview and she landed that job. I wouldn't have thought to do that. I probably would have sent out my resume and like hoped for the best. But this is like the type of nuanced approach you're taking with your coaches that kind of just will give you an edge over those that are kind of looking at the same types of jobs that you do without having the backing of career services. So yeah. Now, you'll notice I mentioned in the beginning that we would talk about our outcomes report. We just put out a new outcomes report yesterday. So if you want to, it is on the website, but I couldn't get my talking points on it in advance of this meeting. But we do put out a third-party audited outcomes report every single year. So the 2021 one just launched, so you could check it out if you're interested. It has a lot of rich data on it. And if you go to our website and just type in jobs report, the new report will come up should you want to download it. It is a little dense. It is, I think, 70 pages, but it does, again, have a lot of rich data in it and some really great outcomes for 2020. And this is always impressive to me because this was our big year with a lot of students that graduated in COVID, and the results are still like really, really great. So I recommend that you download it and check it out. So I am going to now go through the Q&A, and then we'll go through any of the questions that are here. And if there's any more, you can add them to the Q&A right now. So first question, when is the deadline to apply for the part-time UX UI design program? How many slots are left? So typically, we will close a start date about 4 weeks before the cohort so that you have some time to complete your pre-work. So if you apply, luckily for our part-time options, we have start dates every 3 weeks or so. So if you can't get into this very next one, we could probably get you in the one starting July 18th. So yeah, just reach out, definitely apply, and then your admissions advisor will let you know the closest start date that could regard to. Let's see. Regarding the part-time data science program, how many office hours do you offer weekly? So for part-time data science, there's over 12 hours of live sessions you could opt into every single week. We usually honestly have more than 12 hours. Usually kind of 20 different unique little sessions you can join. So those are things like office hours, guided practices, workshops, lectures you can hop into. So there's typically like a ton of live things that you can join if you're doing the part-time option. And then if you need some assistance after hours and on weekends, we have technical coach support. Next question, is the Seattle campus, guys, I locked my cat into this room. One more. Sorry about that. Is the Seattle campus also in person? We have not reopened our Seattle campus. We did have a Seattle campus. We're just doing a phased reopen since COVID. So the only campuses that are open right now are our New York City and our Denver campus. Let's see. Are the instructor-led courses live? What is the schedule? Yes, all the instructor-led content is live. So if you're in the full-time option, you work with them throughout the whole day. Again, 9+ hours. If you're on the East Coast, it's typically like 9 to 6. So those are all live sessions where you're actually with your teacher. Again, with Flex, when you're just working on your own, you have recorded material, and then the live sessions are optional. But yes, they are instructor-led. Do you offer a blockchain coder speciality? No, we don't have things that are just specifically focused on blockchain, but I've seen students do both the software engineering program and even the data science program that get into blockchain. Next question, why Ruby? Oh, this is a great question. So lots of people wonder why we teach Ruby, maybe as opposed to, I don't know, a more popular backend language. Ruby is actually an extremely good beginner-friendly language. It's especially good if you need to learn a backend language and you're new to coding. Also, Ruby on Rails is like one of the most popular web frameworks out there. It's easier to use Ruby on Rails if you know Ruby. And we audit our curriculum every single year with our employer partners. So if we ever find that Ruby is not a good enough language to be teaching, we would obviously change it, but it's still quite relevant in terms of employer partnership feedback. Have there been students that graduate with more than one capstone project? I would say no, not with the program at least, like you only have to do one. But once you graduate, you'll still definitely keep working on your portfolio. Like you'll make contributions to your portfolio even after you graduate. You'll improve projects you worked on in the course. So nothing's stopping you from doing more work. It's just not required in the program. You only have to do one capstone project. Next question is, can programs be combined? I.e. like cybersecurity and data science? No, you would take one program at a time. I have had students though that have like taken our software engineering program and then after working a bit came back and did our data science program, things like that. But you will be very, very busy in whatever course you're in. So you likely just wouldn't be able to do two at a time. Which programs benefit the most from previous experience or knowledge? I would really say our courses are pretty beginner friendly. Now I would say like, again, our data science program, you do some advanced math in that. So it's nice when you come in with a little bit of that math background because it can, it's not a math course outright, like you would want to learn some of that before you begin. So maybe just data science might benefit from a little bit of previous experience and some of those math skills. But other than that, everything you need to prepare for the program is covered in the pre-work. That is like the bar for minimum knowledge you would want before starting and being successful in the program. And we provide that via the pre-work. Do you need to know coding before applying to the cybersecurity course? No, you do not need to know how to code before taking the program. Coding and cybersecurity, you're mostly learning Python skills, and we do cover it in the pre-work, and you'll do it when you're in the program. Do you know the hours that full-time online course meet? So it depends on your time zone and the course you're taking. Like software engineering runs 9 to 6, Monday through Friday Eastern. But like our data science program, we support, I guess, more people per whatever course you're in. So it's 10 to 7. So just ask your admissions lead because it could vary depending on the actual course you're going to choose. Let's see. Do you know if many folks find a loan/funding that supports living expenses for full-time students on top of tuition? Yes. Our loan options for full-time, you can take out an additional cost of living loan should you qualify. I don't want to misspeak, but I think the cap is about $7,500. And then you could choose of what you get approved for, what you want to take out. But yes, we do offer cost of living loans to help support you if you're a full-time student. So just ask your admissions rep and they'll point you in the right direction. Next question is your program GI Bill eligible also? Right now, we do not accept the GI Bill or vet tech. So unfortunately, no. But if you are a vet, you would automatically qualify for our Access Scholarship. Let's see. Can you potentially qualify for 2 scholarships, or is it limited to 1? It is limited to 1 scholarship. We take the highest one you're qualified for. So like if, say, you're a woman and you do the Access Scholarship, again, we would take whatever's the highest value and then apply that. How often do you have start dates for full-time and part-time courses? It depends on the course. For our software engineering program, for both full-time and part-time, we have start dates every 3 weeks. For data science, we have full-time start dates every 6 weeks. I believe that's the same for cybersecurity and product design. But part-time is every 3 weeks for all of our courses. So we have more part-time start dates than full-time start dates. And then you can find all of our start dates on our website. Hello, can you give us some information about what type of computer is required for software engineering? So we do have a computer requirements doc. It lives on our website, but I'll write myself a note because we can send it to y'all in the follow-up email. So I will do that. For software engineering in particular, we don't have a strict system requirement. You could use a Mac or you could use a PC. You just could not use like a Chromebook or a tablet, and there are some memory minimums. But yes, I'll send you through the computer requirement document. Let's see, in regards to cybersecurity, do you know when the next start date is for in-person classes in Denver? Let's see. I think these are all on the website, but off the top of my head, I think cybersecurity is just being offered at the New York City campus for now. So you should see NYC dates, but I don't think we're offering it in Denver. Yeah. What is the student-teacher ratio? How many students are in a cohort? So for the live program, it's typically a 25-to-1 student-teacher ratio. For our flex program, usually it's about a 30-to-1 student-teacher ratio. But I would say it kind of depends per what kind of course you're taking. But yes, that's about the student-teacher ratio. What is the average median salary for product designer? I would actually check the outcomes report because the info is there and it's updated. So check the jobs report because that has like the most recent data. And like I said, it just came out yesterday. So you could probably find most of the info there. Can you pre-apply and then defer enrollment? I would likely suggest that you apply near the start date that you're anticipating. If you want to pre-apply, to keep your application open, you typically would have to pay a deposit. So if you're prepared to pay your deposit, you can, and then your seat would be held. But if not, then we would probably re-engage you a bit closer to your intended start date. If your end career goal is a part-time job and not full-time, will you still be considered? Yeah, you can direct your job search however you'd like. We will still support you. So if you're only looking for part-time work, we can assist you with that. Let's see, I've already started the pre-work for cybersecurity engineering. Any tips for time management and focus? Oh, this is a good question. So if you're an admitted student, just to be clear, right now, you're only in the pre-work if you're admitted. All the stuff on our website right now is just like kind of like little bite-sized experiences. But if you're an admitted student, definitely go to the How to Succeed in Pre-Work event. It's an event that's only there for admitted students. And it kind of tells you how to approach the pre-work. Highly recommend it. It's a great event. Can you start on the full-time track and then switch to part-time halfway through? No. Whatever course you start in is what you would stay in. So it is important you think about that prior. You wouldn't want to have to unenroll and then re-enroll in tuition for that old class. So if when in doubt, go the flexible route, because again, it's flexible. Like if you could dedicate more time, you could graduate earlier. So I always say if you're not sure, go flex because you could always beat your pace and graduate early. Do you recommend a coding background for the data science course? Nope, not necessarily. Python is taught in that program. We can get you the Python skills you need in the pre-work. Again, maybe for data science, I would say maybe just like brushing up on some math is probably more important. But no, you don't necessarily need any coding skills. If someone isn't accepted during the admissions process, is there possibility for reconsideration for another cohort? Yeah, typically your admissions lead will let you know the minimum amount of time you might want to wait before reapplying, but you can absolutely reapply and we can reconsider you for another cohort in the future. How does Flatiron compare to other boot camps that are at the same price range and length of the course? What is Flatiron School's competitive advantage? And is there a San Francisco campus opening soon? These are great questions. I'm very biased because I work at Flatiron School, but I think how really, if you were thinking about how we compare to another school, and I was a student, I would think about curriculum. Do they have updated and relevant curriculum? Again, we update our curriculum every single year, so it's kind of the most relevant that you would learn. I would think about career services. Does your school provide transparent outcomes, and how do they assist you in getting a job when you graduate? It is the hardest part of the whole thing, is the career search, and we have really proven outcomes. So I think we're just honestly have a more robust career services platform than really any other school. And I would also say community. Students don't think they need community. And then when you do not have it, it is very apparent. So I think community is extremely important, also because it adds to your networking opportunities. Like you're getting connected with thousands of alumni that can help you in your search. You're working with other students. So I just think it's important that community is a part of it. San Francisco campus is, I don't think we're opening any more campuses this year, but San Francisco might be on the horizon next year. So if you're in San Francisco, you can take the live virtual. The next start date after July 18th is August 8th. That's the next question. Have you ever had students with a visa? Is it possible to enroll if you have a functioning work visa? We don't require you to prove any visa maintenance to start the program. You don't have to be a US citizen to take our course. We can't guarantee that in your job search that companies will provide you with work visas if you're looking outside of your home country. That's probably the only thing, but many international students take the program. There are some differences in the types of financing options you have as an international student. So talk about that with your admissions lead and they'll let you know what's available to you if you don't have, if you're not a permanent resident or a green card holder or a DACA recipient. Are there any graduates who apply to project manager roles from any of these tracks? 1000% absolutely. Software engineering and data science produce many project manager roles. So yes, many students graduate and become product managers. How long on average does it take a student to find a job within the industry? This is on our outcomes report. If you want to check it out, you can. Over 50% of students get placed within the first 2 months. I just looked at that today, so I know that's accurate, but again, check out the new report because it actually has a whole table that breaks down the percentage of students and what month they were in when they got their job. Where can I look further into the fixed payment option regarding the cybersecurity course? Our payment options are on our website. So if you go to flatironschool.com and you could either type tuition into the search bar, or you could go to the cybersecurity course and scroll down. You'll find all of the tuition options. Let's see. Do you have software engineering pass-fail statistics or people that have withdrawn? Yes, we do. It is all on our outcomes report. So you can check it out there. It has really rich data, actually. Is there a limited amount of access scholarships per month program year? I actually think yes, there is. Have we ever hit the cap? I don't think so. So you should be fine. If you're eligible, just be sure to apply and then get some more info from your admissions lead. Do scholarship offer full tuition coverage? No, not right now. We don't have any full scholarships running right now. We do run them at times. When we do, they're typically big like campaigns we run. So you guys would probably know, but we don't have any full tuition scholarships open right now. How many students are in a cohort for product design? It depends on the start date, but our product design programs typically run even there. It's a newer course. It runs a bit smaller than some of our other courses. So I would say probably no more than 15 students. But you could always ask your admissions rep. They'll tell you how many students are in the cohort you're looking at. Let's see. I want to be sure we could get through. We're over time. So if any of you guys have to hop, you definitely can, because we're going to send you a recording. So any questions that are remaining, I will answer them live right now. But you know, I want to respect everyone's time. Let's see. What's your, I'm not sure if I had it. Maybe what's your take on students' experience on the saturation of the job market? Do you think there's a higher demand at the moment for graduates of one course over the other? So whenever students are trying to choose a course, I try to tell them, don't focus on the outcomes, focus on the type of job you could see yourself doing full time. You don't want to switch one job you like for another job you like just because you think it makes more money, because to be honest, our outcomes are quite similar per discipline. So no, I wouldn't say there's a marketably higher demand for any one course over the other. And if you take into our outcomes, there's not even really much saturation in the job market. There's only more and more jobs becoming available. So yeah, do a bit of the free courses and just see which courses you like the best. That should influence your course choice more than maybe the outcomes. Do you offer a discount for in-state and city applicants for New York City? No, we do not. What is your acceptance rate? I actually don't know if we record that data on our acceptance rate. There is some weird stat out there that says it's like 6% or something like that. I don't think that's accurate. Basically, we will guide you through the full entire admissions process. We've guided many students. So again, I just don't think it's data we collect. Do you guys have any job guarantee? No, we do not have a job guarantee. But again, all students that graduate the program get full career services once they graduate. That is now like kind of a proven framework we've used for a few years. Let's see. I think someone is just plugging our free courses, which is nice. Thank you. Can you share a link to the jobs report here? I turned off the chat feature, but I will link in the jobs report in our wrap-up email. We'll put the jobs report in there. How is the community for the online programs only? This is a great question. So as a flex student, there are many ways where you're still engaged with community. Mostly you'll do so during live sessions. So things like guided practices often turn into like paired programming. And then there's also affinity groups that you'll join on like Slack or other platforms where you can actually interact with other students. So between affinity groups, workshops, paired programming exercises, and just doing student study groups, that's usually how you interact with other students in the program. In the Flex program, are the sessions recorded lectures or are they made for distance learning? Flex program, it's a combination of both. There are recorded lectures and like a bank of recorded material, and then you can attend instructor-led live sessions. Will there be an in-person cohort in Houston soon? Not this year. Only campuses open this year are New York City and Denver. Do the software engineering courses include, think like a developer theory concepts as opposed to strict technical curriculum? I actually would say most of our stuff is like logic-based learning in software engineering. It has to be a balance. Like you do have to graduate knowing how to code in these languages, but most of our philosophy around education is how to learn. You know, there will be a time where JavaScript is not the most popular front-end language. You don't want to have to take another course. So a lot of the things in the program are just teaching you how to learn, teaching you how to Google, teaching you how to problem solve actively, so that if you're presented with a problem you've never encountered, you have like a toolbox of resources to use. So this is an excellent question because it talks a bit about our philosophy of education. Some of it is technical skills that you just have to learn, but most of it is honestly a more logic-based learning style. Is there an ISA agreement offered? We do not offer an income shared agreement. In an income shared agreement, it's kind of like you pay until you hit a cap. We used to offer it, but we no longer do. Instead, we have a deferred loan that's kind of comparable. So no ISA for us. I think I got through all of the questions here. So again, I'm sorry I went over time a bit, but if there are any questions that I wasn't able to answer, you can actually schedule a 10-minute chat with admissions. In the wrap-up email, there'll also be a link to do that. So definitely just like schedule a chat with us and we can answer your questions kind of one-on-one. And then in the wrap-up email, I will also include the most recent outcomes jobs report so you can check it out. And yeah, if you guys need anything, we're very happy to help, but I appreciate you guys for sticking on and for you that stayed on over time. So I hope that this was helpful and yeah, have a great rest of the night.